What I'd like to do is invite everybody to Plumbers Hall, and that's 1340 West Washington tonight. I believe there'll be over 3,000 working men and women that are going to fill that hall. We've got President John Sweeney of the AFL-CIO that's going to come in and speak. We got Anna Berger, chair of the Change to Win on the international level. We got a gentleman by the name of Terry O'Sullivan, who's the general president of the Laborers Union, that is going to join us with our friends in the religious community, our friends in our communities from one end of this city and state and county to the other, to really start generating up the attention that needs to be put on the Employee Free Choice Act. I think we've waited too long. It's time to act now, and it's time to make a change. So if there's any questions, Michael Kerrigan and myself, or Congressman Danny Davis, that's going to be with us this evening. Danny, I guess you're the...
Danny, would you assess the political situation with this? I want to understand that there's not going to be any trouble in the House of Representatives or with the President. The entire thing rests in the Senate. Is that right?
Well, I mean, we have been passing legislation in the House, serious legislation. The last session of Congress, I served on the Education Committee, and we passed 19 bills out of that committee. 13 of them were signed into law by the President. The economic stimulus package we passed without a single Republican vote in the House, without one. When we got to the Senate, of course, we had to negotiate more. We had to interact more. We had to give up some things that we didn't want to give up. We had to include some things. So I think it's a political reality that the House is more insulated from the ability to hold up good legislation than what we experience in the Senate because of the difference in the rules. I'm saying in the Senate, you know that you've got to have 60 votes to prevent filibuster, and depending on what the issues are and the negotiations, you may or may not have those. So that's what I meant.
And just to follow up, do you think this is something that's either going to get through intact or not get through, or is it something that might be altered on its way through?
Well, you know, a little alteration does not necessarily change things that much. But I think the basic principles of this legislation will get through because I think the Democratic leadership in both the House and the Senate are committed to it. It's time now for us to move and act, and I think that's what we're going to do.
Congressman, why do you think it is that Senator Burris is withholding support for this right now?
I have not discussed this particular issue with Senator Burris, but I have a lot of confidence in Senator Burris, and maybe he was simply saying he hadn't been a senator long enough to have made all of the assessment that he needed to make. But I'd be willing to bet that when the deal goes down, that Roland Burris will support this legislation.
Mr. Gannon, what's your comment on Senator Burris's reluctance so far to support this, and what are the political stakes for him if he doesn't?
I tend to think that we've met with the Senator's Chief of Staff for about 2.5 hours to discuss where we believe the Senator hopefully will be someday. Our reluctance is that maybe there's a little politics being played here. Maybe the Senator wants to reach out for organized labor and see what kind of support he can get when there's a re-election. You know, it's puzzling to the labor leaders like myself and President Kerrigan that the President of the United States that sat in that seat supported us on closure. He supported us as a co-sponsor, and he was going to vote for the bill when it came to the Senate. Now we have Senator Burris that came along that hasn't gave us those assurances yet. I believe what Congressman Davis said hopefully will come to pass here very shortly. But we are really, tonight, going to put it on Senator Burris that we need to get a decision, and we need to get a decision now, where he is on this piece of legislation.
If I could just add to Dennis's comments, I know the U.S. Senator is part of his schedule today. He takes him to Peoria, Illinois. and one of his stops is to speak to some labor leaders in Peoria, the president of the Central Labor Council and the executive director of the Buildings and Trades. Now watch my smile. I guarantee you he's going to be talked to about the Employee Free Choice Act today. As Dennis has already articulated, you know, we have reached out, but I echo Congressman Danny Davis's comments. You know, he's hardly been in the chair for about 7 weeks. A lot of things going on right now. I think at the end of the day, you know, I'm optimistic he's going to be there. But obviously we're going to continue to reach out to him, and we're going to try to convince him this is the right vote to support the Employee Free Choice Act.
Congressman Davis, can we ask you whether you think that, you know, a lot of people are saying that Senator Burris may have lied or at best misled the committee. Do you agree with that?
Let me try to separate, because we're really here talking about the ability of individuals to organize, to protect themselves, and to work. I just as soon respond to that inquiry in a different setting once we're finished with this, then I would give you a response to it.
Well, I don't know if anybody has any more questions about this.
Anybody else have any more questions?
Okay.
I think it'd be great if we saw everybody tonight over at Plumbers at Home. It'd be, I think it's going to be a very historical event, and I appreciate the Chicago media for taking the time out and making sure that this is part of the news. Thank you all.
Can we have Danny do this with the lectern while we're all set
Yeah,
up?
sure. Go ahead, Danny.
Oh,
You're
okay.
gonna have to see
I
here.
can continue to use
That's a lot, my friend.
All right.
There's Dennis.
You know, I really think the saga of the replacement for President Obama in the Senate, I had hoped that it would have been put to bed right now and that it would have rested. It appears to me that there is controversy surrounding what Senator Burris may or may not have said. It appears to me that when he went before the impeachment panel in the General Assembly, that he was reacting as though a trial was taking place. And he had his lawyer there, his legal counsel. And I'm not a lawyer, but every time I've ever engaged a lawyer and I had to publicly respond to something, he always said, don't say any more than what you asked. Don't reveal anything other than answer to whatever is asked of you. And it appeared to me that that's what Senator Burris was doing. I noticed every minute or two he'd reach over, look over, and talk to Tim Wright and whisper something, and Tim would whisper something. And so I think that's what Senator Burris was doing. And so when direct questions were not asked, he only responded to what was asked. And that's what he said that he did. I have every reason to believe that that's what he did. Now, could one say that perhaps he may have made a mistake by doing that? Well, I think that becomes debatable, and it's possible, but I don't think many people can deny that when you're in a trial-like environment and you have an attorney, that you pretty much try and follow what your lawyer suggests. As a matter of fact, I think the governor's lawyers quit because he wouldn't do that. And so I think that's what Roland was doing. And I don't think that Roland was trying to
But
hide.
didn't he have an
Congressman,
obligation to the people
on
of
the Blackberry
Illinois?
here, it says that Michael Madigan has just referred documents related to Mr. Burris's testimony to the Sangamon County prosecutor. Does that take this to a level that would perhaps suggest that Mr. Burris should resign?
No, I think even the fact that it's been referred to a prosecutor, what that means is that the prosecutor, even though he might be in Sangamon County, can only look at the information that is there. Senator Burris maintains that he has not changed anything related to what he said. I've heard him say a number of times that when asked the question, and some names were given to him, whether or not he'd had any contact with them, and he said, yeah, I've been talking to my friends who work for the governor, and the names were read off and that kind of thing, and he indicated that he said yes, implying that yes, he had spoken with all of those individuals whose names had been read.
But does this render him politically ineffective?
Well, I don't think so. I think what it does, one, because of all the hype that existed already about the replacement, about the appointment, that the environment is so contentious, and that there are reporters and there are politicians who will look for any opportunity to demonstrate that one should not have been interacting with the legally elected governor at that particular time. And so I think that Senator Burris may have done better to have just at that moment said, well, yeah, I've had some contact with him, and the governor's brother called me up. But if you would recall, and I'm not defending anything or anybody, but at the time, Senator Burris was a business person, an attorney, a lawyer, and I think most politicians in Illinois call up business persons and ask them for contributions when they're trying to raise political money. I believe they do. I mean, I don't know very many who don't. And maybe Roland was not as forceful in terms of saying when there was an opportunity to reveal that there had been those kind of inquiries, but I don't think he felt at the time, if you would even look back. Let me just say this in terms of the public at that point. Senator Burris was not considered in the public purvey as one of the persons most likely to be asked to take the position.
But my question is, do you believe he can be effective? Do you believe he can be an effective United States Senator in Illinois and in Washington, given all this?
Oh, without a doubt, I think he can be effective. I have, seen some of his response to issues as he has interacted. I've been in meetings that he's been in where we've met with the governor and we've met with the members of the Illinois delegation. He has raised pertinent issues and pertinent questions and expressed positions and points of view. I just think that it is much too early, based upon anything that Roland Burris has done, to suggest that he could be anything less than effective. If people want to continue to beat up on Governor Blagojevich, and that's what they're doing, and Roland becomes the surrogate, then I think that's some of what's happening.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
You guys want a sandwich or sandwiches over here before you leave?
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, everybody.